Hello everyone. My name is Stefan. Welcome back to our A2 English Sleep Story podcast. Tonight, I will tell you another slow, calm, relaxing story. This time it is about a quiet evening with friends. So just lie down, relax, breathe slowly, and let the story guide you. Let's begin. Last Sunday, I decided to take a short trip to a nearby town. I had been feeling a little tired during the week, so I wanted a quiet day away from the city. I woke up at 8 o'clock in the morning and stretched my arms slowly. The sun was already shining through my window, and the warm light made my room feel peaceful. I prepared a simple breakfast. I made tea, I toasted some bread, and I cut a small piece of cheese. I ate slowly, enjoying the quiet morning. After breakfast, I washed the dishes, packed a small backpack, and got ready for my little adventure. I put inside a bottle of water, a notebook, a pen, and an apple. Then I left my house and walked to the bus stop. The air was fresh, and the street was calm. There were only a few people outside, some walking their dogs, some opening their shops. The bus arrived at 9 o'clock. I got on and sat near the window. The seat was soft, and the bus was almost empty. As the bus started moving, I watched the city disappear slowly behind me. Tall buildings became smaller, and the quiet countryside began to appear. There were green fields, small houses, and long roads surrounded by trees. I saw farmers working on their land, birds flying over the fields, and cows resting under a tree. Everything looked peaceful, like time was moving slower. After about 30 minutes, the bus entered the small town. The town was cute and quiet. There were old stone houses, small shops, and a big clock tower in the center. The streets were narrow, clean, and full of colorful flowers. I felt happy the moment I got off the bus. First, I walked slowly to the town square. There was a fountain in the middle, and the sound of water made the place feel even more peaceful. I sat on a bench for a few minutes and watched people pass by. Some were carrying shopping bags, some were drinking coffee, and some were walking their dogs. I wanted to explore more, so I walked through the main street. I saw a small bakery. The smell of fresh bread was so strong that I smiled without thinking. I went inside and bought a warm pastry. The baker was friendly, and she told me that the recipe was very old, from her grandmother. The pastry tasted soft and sweet, perfect for a calm morning. After that, I continued walking. I found a little bookshop on a quiet corner. The door was open, and a small bell made a soft sound when I stepped inside. The shop was filled with shelves of books, old and new. There was a gentle smell of paper and wood. A cat was sleeping on the counter, and the owner whispered hello to me. I looked around for a while and bought a small travel book with beautiful pictures. I put it in my backpack and went back outside. Next, I walked to a small park near the river. The water was slow and shiny under the sunlight. I sat on the grass, drank some water, and listened to the birds. I wrote a few lines in my notebook about the trip and how calm I felt. After resting, I walked along the riverside path. There were old trees with long branches, moving gently in the wind. The sound of the river and the wind together made me feel sleepy. It felt like the town was giving me a warm hug. Around noon, I went to a tiny cafe by the river. The cafe had only a few tables, all outside under big umbrellas. I ordered tea and a small sandwich. The waiter smiled and asked where I was from. We talked for a few minutes about the town, its history, and nice places to see. I stayed there for almost an hour, just watching the river flow and people walk by. It felt like time had stopped, and everything was peaceful. When the afternoon arrived, I decided to walk back to the bus stop. My legs were a little tired, but my mind felt light and calm. I got on the bus, sat near the window again, and watched the town slowly disappear. The fields, the houses, the trees, everything looked beautiful as we passed by. When I arrived home, it was already late afternoon. I made tea, sat on the sofa, and thought about my small trip. It was simple, but it made my day peaceful and warm. Sometimes a short journey is enough to make your heart feel quiet and happy. Last month, I decided that I wanted to learn a new hobby. For a long time, I felt that my days were too similar. I worked, I came home, I cooked dinner, and I slept. Everything was fine, but something was missing. I needed something small that could bring color to my day, something calm and enjoyable. One evening, While I was sitting on my sofa, I looked at my bookshelf. There were many notebooks, but most of them were empty. Then I suddenly had an idea. Maybe I could learn drawing, not to become an artist, not to make perfect pictures, but simply to relax my mind. The next morning, I woke up at 8 o'clock. The sun was shining softly through the curtains. I made breakfast slowly. Toasted bread, prepared cheese, and poured myself a cup of warm tea. While eating, I thought about my new hobby. I felt excited, but also calm. I didn't need to do anything big, I just wanted to try. After breakfast, I took a small notebook from my shelf. It had a blue cover and smooth white pages. I also found 2 pencils in a drawer. One was sharp, the other was old and short. I put everything in a small bag and decided to go to the park to start drawing. The air outside was fresh, there were a few clouds in the sky, but the weather was warm. I walked slowly toward the park. On the way, I saw a bakery. The smell of fresh bread filled the street, and I felt happy. I bought a small pastry and continued walking. When I reached the park, I looked for a quiet place. There were many trees, benches, and green grass. Children were playing, dogs were running, and people were walking softly. But I wanted a corner where I could sit alone. Finally, I found a small bench under a tall tree. The leaves created a soft shadow. The wind moved them gently. Birds were singing somewhere above me. It was the perfect place to begin my new hobby. I opened my notebook and looked at the white page. For a moment, I didn't know what to draw. Everything seemed too difficult. But then I remembered why I wanted this hobby. Not to make the perfect drawing, just to enjoy the moment. So I started with something simple, a leaf. There were many leaves around me. I picked one from the ground and placed it on my notebook. Slowly, carefully, I drew the shape, first the outline, then the lines inside. It wasn't perfect, but it looked nice. I smiled. It felt good to create something with my hands. After the leaf, I drew a small flower, then I drew a tree, then a little bird. With each small drawing, I felt calmer and happier. It was like my mind was taking a deep breath. At one point, an old man passed by. He looked at my notebook and said, "That's nice." His voice was gentle. I thanked him, and he walked away slowly with his dog. His kind words made me feel even more confident. I stayed in the park for almost 2 hours, drawing, listening to the wind, watching people. My notebook now had several small sketches. None of them were perfect, but all of them made me smile. I realized that a hobby doesn't need to be big, it just needs to bring peace. When the sun became stronger, I closed my notebook and stood up. I walked around the park one more time. I watched ducks near the pond. I saw children playing with a ball. I saw a cat sleeping on the grass. Everything looked soft and calm. On the way home, I felt proud. I had started something new, something small, something peaceful. When I got back home, I made tea and opened my notebook again. I looked at my drawings. The leaf, the flower, the tree, the bird, simple, quiet, and warm, just like the feeling inside me. That day, I learned that a new hobby doesn't change your life suddenly, it just adds a gentle moment to your day. A moment where everything is slow, everything is soft, everything is calm, and sometimes, that is exactly what we need. It was Friday afternoon, and the sky was turning a soft orange color. The week had been busy and a little tiring, so when my friend Anna sent me a message saying, "Would you like to come over for a quiet evening?" I smiled and said yes immediately. I finished my work, closed my laptop, and took a warm shower. The hot water relaxed my shoulders. I felt lighter, calmer, ready for a peaceful night. I put on a comfortable sweater, soft pants, and my cozy socks. Then I walked to Anna's apartment. The air outside was cool, but not cold. The street lights were turning on one by one, making the sidewalks glow gently. When I arrived, Anna opened the door with a big warm smile. "Come in, Stefan," she said. Inside the apartment the lights were soft. There were small candles on the table, and gentle background music playing in the living room. 2 more friends were already there. Mark and Lisa. They were sitting on the floor around a low table with snacks. There were grapes, cheese, crackers, and warm herbal tea. Everything smelled comforting. I sat down with them, and we started talking slowly, not fast, not loud, just calm. Soft conversations about our week, about little things we noticed, about movies, books, and funny moments at work. Sometimes we laughed quietly, sometimes we just sat in silence. Listening to the soft music, the room felt warm, safe, peaceful, like time was moving slower than usual. After a while, Anna brought out a small box with simple games, nothing complicated, just relaxing little activities. We played a drawing game where each person closed their eyes and drew an animal. All the drawings looked strange and funny. We laughed again, but in a slow, quiet way. Later, we all moved to the balcony. The night was cool and refreshing. The city lights were shining below us like tiny stars. We sat on cushions, wrapped in small blankets, and drank hot tea while looking at the night sky. Mark pointed at a bright star and said, "Look! It is so clear tonight." Lisa said she felt relaxed for the first time all week. Anna smiled and said, "Even simple nights can feel special when we are together." I nodded, feeling the same. The wind moved gently through the plants on the balcony. The candles inside flickered softly, and everything felt slow, quiet, and peaceful. We stayed like that for a long time, talking a little, resting a little, just enjoying the calm evening with good friends. After some time, I stood up, stretched my arms, and said this night was exactly what I needed. Everyone agreed with soft, happy smiles. I put on my jacket, ready to walk home through the peaceful streets. As I walked home, the streets were quiet and gentle. The windows of the houses glowed softly, the wind moved slowly between the trees, and everything felt peaceful. When I finally reached my home, I took off my jacket. I made a warm cup of tea, and sat by the window for a moment, thinking about the calm evening with my friends. I felt grateful, relaxed, and light. My eyes began to feel heavy, my body felt warm and soft, and I knew it was time to rest, so I turned off the lights. I lay down in my bed. I took a deep, slow breath, and I let the quiet night take me into a gentle sleep. Good night, everyone, sleep well, and see you in the next peaceful story.